A bit of a problem we seem to have in our tests, and it's common for a lot of people to forget about this, is that we struggle to answer the question. And as this man says, I hope that's a satisfactory answer. And I think there is a way for us to see how best to do these things. So let's see if we can put together a little plan. We have tests coming up very, very soon. So let's see if we can look at these. Now, in any question, there will be a command term. Now, we call it a command term because it tells you what to do. Now, I've given some examples here that look at things we have to do. A lot of questions start off with the word state. Now, they're normally the lower level, maybe 1, 2, or maybe even 3, 4 question. And we'll see how to answer those in a minute. List is pretty much another way of saying the same thing. Right, outline is maybe a 3, 4 question. And what you do is give a brief overview, as it says here. You can read these things, and these give a summation of what to do. Quite often our 5, 6, and even our 7, 8 questions might be describe or explain. Now, as we go up in years, we find that evaluate comes in there as well. So let's see if we can come to grips with terms, or some terms, and I'm going to describe a couple of questions that I noticed happened in our concussion activity. Now, if you're from a different year, that's fine. It just simply means you can use this but transfer it to a different test or a different task you've done. Now, these command terms are used pretty well in every task we have. There is a big list of them, and your teacher can go through them with you. We might actually go through and have a look at some of these command terms in what to do in test questions as a quizzes or something similar on the way through. Right, probably the simplest one, name. Now, in the question in our task, it said name 3 symptoms of concussion. So if we are doing that, all the question wanted you to do was simply to write down the names or a term, simple terms. So we could write dizzy. We could write nausea. We could write headache. Notice I'm only writing words. I'm not writing anything. I don't have to explain them. I don't have to do anything more. All I've got to do is name them. That's what I wanted to do. So I could do these things, and simply I'm just telling the person, right, here's 3 things that I would see could indicate, in this case, concussion. So when you see the word name, or when you see the command term name, you know what to do now. Now, you must it will tell you to name a certain number. It might say all, 2, whatever. So make sure you satisfy that part of the requirement too. Hope that's nice and sensible. Right, now a slightly different one. This is probably about a 3, 4 question, or it might even higher depending on what this. Now this one said, name and describe 2 ways a person playing your sport could get a concussion. I think was the exact question. So the red here tells us that what we should be doing is we should be describing means to tell me in detail about something. So I've got to add details. All right? If I just name it, like falling over, then that's just naming and you haven't really done the description part. So you can't achieve at the higher level. You must use sentences. Whenever we get to more complex answers and responses, we must add sentences. So we could say something like, okay, let's look at this. And we could say something like, a person could get concussion by colliding with another player. There is one way a person could get it, and you're describing it. You're telling me that you've got to collide with a player, so you're giving me some sort of description. You give me some details. Or when they are tackled, hitting their head on the ground. All right, so I've named two ways. The two ways I've named are colliding with other players and getting tackled and hitting their head on the ground. Okay? So you've described little bits of actions that could happen to cause that in this case. Is that okay? I hope so. If we have problems with these, I really need you to come and see me in, or see your teacher in extended learning. Right. The next level up, and you find these words mainly in our 5-6 questions. And the question this time, explain why we should be concerned. And this was about getting a concussion. So in this case, I've said here in the red that explain means that you should tell me how or why something happened or caused problems. All right? Again, it's sentences. So let's try to come up with a reasonable sort of an option with this. So we could say, when a person has a concussion, their brain is bruised. Full stop. This can cause permanent damage and may do so if they have another concussion. So we could also say that the brain takes a long time to heal. It can be change the way we think. It can change the way we act. It can affect our balance. It can affect our personality. So we could say these sort of things, but you're trying to tell me all these things is happening, and you're trying to tell me why, or what's wrong with having a concussion? What's wrong with it? Why should I be worried about it? Doesn't our brain control everything? So maybe we could even add our brain controls much of what we do, so it's not a good idea, if you like. So we can say it's not a good idea to have it not working properly. Now I'm just paraphrasing this to try to make it a bit easier for us. All right? So those are the sort of things we could say to answer that question. See how what I've done is I've done I've given a reason to start off with and then expanded that reason. I've sort of made my ideas about why it's a bad idea really, really clear. All right, let's look on the last one which I've got here. An outline how a player might receive a concussion. This one we have to give a summary. Again, we should use sentences, not as much detail as sentences. So we could say something like, a person could, oops, sorry about my writing, could receive a concussion by any action that causes their brain to collide with their skull. The skull, or I could even say, and become bruised. Or I could use the word injured there. That'll be okay, I think. I could accept both those. Right, see how there's not as much detail in there, but it does give an overview, if you like. We know that a person is receiving a concussion if their brain bounces around in their skull and it bruises the brain. So I've just said that in a couple of sentences. Hopefully that will make it a bit easier for you. Let's see what happens in the next test.